Today we've seen a side opposition that is reluctant to acknowledge the fact that these workers are the majority of our population, that these workers affect all of our society, and it's for that reason that I stand before you so proud to propose. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a contentious debate on two sides, raising what we believe come down to three main things. Firstly, about representation. Secondly, about the effect on the unions. And finally, about the effect on politicians. Let's get right into the first one, about representation. We would tell you on side proposition that the role of the government is to protect rights and freedoms, especially of these workers. They make decisions that affect the whole of society. They're supposed to take a look at the majority and make decisions based on the needs of that majority. Now, side opposition came up here and told you that governments don't always make decisions that involve unions. We would tell you that's probably true, but we would also tell you that in many cases, not all MPs are familiar in every single subject. We don't think that's a need. We think that as long as they're making an impactful decision, we think that's all that matters. We want to have representation in our House of Commons. Our side has told you today that people aren't getting voted in because their voices simply aren't heard on the small scale. We need to elevate this to the larger scale. This resolution deals with that problem. Their side has simply told you that these MPs are already taking care of everything. We don't really need to add them into our House of Commons. They told us that we're going to include the teachers or whatever labor unions in their discussion, but we see that in the status quo, that's simply not happening. Their voices aren't being heard. We need to put this resolution into effect in order for this to work. So let's take a look at the effect that this has on the unions. So side opposition has basically told you that the status quo is good enough. That's why we have forums. These unions are already being equally represented. We would tell you that that's inherently incorrect. We would tell you that these labor unions aren't being represented, again, on the larger scale, and that's the place where change really comes from. And finally, let's take a look at the effect that this has on the politicians. Side opposition tried to tell you that people who work hard for their job won't get it even if they were more qualified. We would again tell you that not all politicians are qualified in every single field. We think that's why it's justifiable for us to include these labor unions in our House of Commons. And we would tell you that furthermore, even if this harm were true, we would still tell you that representation of all society is more important. We would tell you that we won this debate today because of four main things. We would tell you firstly that side opposition failed to address the idea that this lessens government-union tensions. Secondly, they didn't address the fact they never told us why we don't represent smaller unions in the status quo, and they never told us why this won't be a catalyst for change, and they ignored the basic need. And because we have proved to you our burdens today about how it is justifiable to give seats to representatives of major labor unions, and secondly, how this benefits the greater good, we are so proud to propose. Thank you.